Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. We're going to do a Macro Mondays today. Today is September 9th, 2024, and I kind of screwed up my intro there, but that really doesn't matter. What matters is that Bitcoin has closed a daily low, and it has closed a daily low on bullish divergence. Now, I like to see multiple drives of bullish divergence, and this is bullish divergence of the regular kind, not the hidden kind. So essentially between these two lows here, we have a slightly lower low on a closing basis, and RSI is showing a drive of bullish divergence because we have a higher low on RSI here. You can also see that RSI is above the moving average, and in general, this is good for a nice little lower term time frame rally, which we have seen to, I believe, a high of around 57, actually no, almost $58,000. It got to 119, and that was in Monday's price action. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a lower term time frame pullback from here. Now, in terms of the trending structure, this is a move from an uptrend. This daily uptrend coming off of the big dump here, which is a trend break of this uptrend over here. We had the third big move down in the range, and we saw an uptrend form that was short-lived, and we see that it trend broke to the downside. Now we don't have any closing lower high other than the higher high up here at $65,000. So at the moment, Bitcoin would need to close above the $65,000 level to make this a deviation on equal lows on a close, basically at $54,000 with this slightly lower low on a close over here at just around 53,950 or so. And in this case, what I'd be looking for, to be quite honest here, is another lower high. That's the first thing that we do need to be cognizant of. And it doesn't really matter where that comes in, but that is something that we need to pay attention to. Now, if Bitcoin were to go up and close above $65,000, then that would be a deviation of this uptrend here. This big trend break here. This is quite an aggressive trend break if that were to occur. So what is more likely is to get some sort of higher low structure, lower high structure, and then we look for higher lows, or we look for continuation of trend anywhere below this most recent low that was just set as of the Monday candle. Now, technically, you could say that the swing low and actually the closing low was set on the Sunday candle coming into Monday. So, it did close just above that inverted doji there at 54,847. And what did the close come in on Sunday? 54,881. So yeah. Sunday actually closed this low as it set the swing low here at 52,530, and then it set the closing low on that Sunday candle. Monday pushed up into the risk zone, nearly hitting the top side here, which is at 58,414. I just call it 58,400. If Bitcoin does trade above here, we need to be cognizant of the recover zone, the recover zone, not a recover zone, but a recover zone here, the recover zone at 60,000 to 60,300. That'd be the next major area of overhead resistance. Now, obviously, this is kind of the no man's land zone between the two big support and resistance zones between risk and recovery. Now, if Bitcoin does start to close daily candles back above, and I am being specific about daily candles, not just throwing wicks in there, but needs to close daily candle, then we can start marking up somewhere around 61 to 61.8. And that would be, essentially right around this order block candle on the daily here that was sitting right at that 60,263 here on Coinbase Spot. Anywhere above 60,000 to 60,300, and I would look for at least a test into 61K, possibly to 61.8, where all these wicks are coming in, and right around where the close open high over here is. Technically, it's at 61,700, but with the wicks kind of thrown above there, we can call it 61.8. And then above there, locally within the recover zone, we'd look to 62.8 or 62,755 here at this swing high, and then 63.8 at the top side of the recover zone to 64K, and then possibly run to that 65K. Now, generally, when you see a trend break like this, we look for lower highs, and then wherever that lower high is, that's the lower high to beat. right, to change or to break a downtrend. And as long as Bitcoin is remaining, on a closing basis above, especially above the close open low here at 53,950, essentially $54,000, and not closing below 52,530, then we can entertain higher low structure developing. And again, that doesn't rule out that Bitcoin doesn't go and try and take out $65,000. That is actually possible. It's not the most likely thing to happen, but it is absolutely in the cards here, especially if Bitcoin starts closing, dailies back above the bottom side of the recovery zone at 60,000 and 60,300. If it does happen to put in a lower high in between now and when I talk to you again on Wednesday, then you do need to pay attention of continuation of trend below that 52,530. So if we do see a lower high between now and when I talk to you on Wednesday, that's the downside risk of continuation and a downtrend forming to go fill out target one of distribution here between 53 and technically, we can kind of ignore the support here at 50, and really it's 53 to $49,000 is fair game. A swing lower than $49,000 wouldn't be unexpected if it did start to do that. Any closes below, and we look to target two of distribution, which is 49 to around 45 to 45.5. That's the bear market lower high of 2022. So, and then further downside, especially in the case of like some kind of exacerbated news where we're already seeing price breaking down, and then we get further news, then we can look to the Bitcoin mining electrical cost base, and that is or was currently at on this chart at $43,000. Let's check on that. I will warn you, this chart is blindingly white. It's from Caprioli Investments, and we're going to go flip to it now. All right, it did actually tick up a little bit, so we're seeing a little bit of increased competition on the network for hash, and 43,122. So we can adjust this. We'll just call it 43,100. It's ever so slight, but it does matter that it's ticking back up a little bit here. That's generally seen as a good thing, and we would want to see that trend continue for the mining electrical costs, because that means total production cost is going up as well, because there's more competition on the network. Yes, I know blocks aren't being filled and like fees on the network are really low, but that's not directly, I mean, it isn't, but it's not directly correlated as it stands right now. We're talking about competition of hash on the network and for hash rate on the network. And when it's rising, that's generally a good thing for price. But in an emergency scenario where we see some sort of news-driven, exacerbated move, we'll already see it forming in some of the lower-term timeframes before it happens. But if we were to see some sort of a lower high and then a move down through all of these supports, electrical cost is typically the area that it likes to bounce in extreme situations. If we see a downtrend that just walking its way down through the levels, what we'll likely see is mining electrical costs come down with it. But in this case, it's encouraging to see it back rising again. And all of the criteria to the upside would remain, above 65. We're looking to around 65.5, slightly higher in the local area. Of course, $65,000 was the first swing high from 2021. Just above there, we have this last downtrending high of the first big move down at 65.5. So we do need to be aware of that. And then, of course, we have the first big lower high of this entire move. From the big move up, we still had higher low structure, and then we had a trend break. And then the first big lower high at 67,272. So that would be the next area to pay attention to, 65.5 to 62,272. And then just above there, you see the double top on a close here at $68,000. It just happens to be the zone where the first major lower high of the second downtrend of this range is between $68,000 and about $70,000. We saw that the closes came in at around 68, slightly above, and then the spike directly to $70,000. Anywhere above there, we're running the highs and higher. 70, I would say 72 to 74, but realistically, I'm looking 73 to 75 above there, anywhere above $72,000 on closes. And then we come back to it for deeper targets, 75, 78, 78 to 80, mid to low 80s from there. And then we've got a $90,000 Bollinger Band target on the longer term time frames that I'm going to talk about the closer we get to the end of the month. But in this case, Bitcoin has a chance here to continue its move up on the daily. Let's go ahead and look at a few other things. Well, we talked about trend and support and resistance kind of at the same time. We did talk about momentum in terms of RSI in just a moment because I wanted to call out the single drive of bullish divergence that's going on right now. But let's look at bands for volatility levels here. And you can see, yeah, so this is lining up kind of how we would expect it. Below the lower first, that's the bottom side of the risk zone, top side of the danger zone here at 55,850. Any price action below there, likely going to see this low tested that was just put in all the way down to that 53.5. And you'll notice that 53.5 was the wick low of the second major downtrend of the range. And we haven't seen any closes below that. So we're not really looking for distribution into target one until we see closes below that. Then we're looking for target one to get hit. And in this case, there's an additional piece of criteria that 53 and just slightly under this low would need to be dropped below the lower second standard deviation here at that 52.5 basically to really start looking for expansion down into target one and then open up the bottom side of that, at 50,000 and that wick low at 49 into target two. To the top side here, you can see the basis skating just above that 58.4 level, roughly around 58.5 to 600. And, it's actually a little bit higher than that because this is log scale. It's 58,800. So if Bitcoin does start closing back above the risk zone at 58.4, that would be good criteria that the base is going to get tested, maybe even above it to that 60,000 to 60,300. Above there, you can see the upper first is coming in at 61.8. So it was that area right across these wick highs and roughly around that close open high there. Anywhere above there, we're looking to 63,800 to 64K and then $65,000 by the upper second. And you can see the pivot zone being bracketed by the upper second and upper third. Closes above the upper second would expand volatility into that zone. Possibly even, up to that upper third, which is right there at $68,000. So just above that 67,272, which is a key pivot. I want to call this out again because I get a lot of questions about it. Why is it the key pivot? Well, it was the first real major lower high in this entire range. And you can see after we got this higher low to higher high structure, where did it sit? It sat right on that first major lower high of the range. And that's pretty important. You can see the first major lower high of the second downtrend of the range was primary resistance. We haven't seen price get above there yet. And then the actual third downtrend, the first major lower high is actually part of an uptrend. So this is indicative of a possible structure change that stays within range. I don't want to get you too excited though, because if we dump down below 52.5, then we're looking at some lower prices. But seeing this bit of a structure change means that we might be doing local range reaccumulation. So instead of we're doing like a distribution within the context of the range and expanding that range to the downside. Obviously, it's a bit of a falling wedge or a falling channel on the bigger time frames. Of course, that would also be the daily as well, if you were to draw it out in terms of patterns, which in this case, we want to see this kind of a structural change in the way that price action is operating, as it does offer up, some of what I've said. We have some big options plays that are going to be rolling. We have the quad witching coming into, technically it's the 20th. What is that, the Friday? Let me double check. But it's really the 22nd that you got to be aware of when markets reopen. So the 20th, yeah, that's Friday. And then the 22nd is when all of the futures traded markets are going to open back up. So we're looking at, traditional markets technically getting rolling then again on the 22nd. So between the 20th, that Friday close into the 22nd and 23rd, which is a Monday, it's technically, the third week In by the 20th, the third week is where we're going to see all those options roll. That means we're getting a lot of liquidity adjustments, and that would kind of line up if Bitcoin can stick around in this range, especially holding closes above 53.5 would be encouraging. And then we can possibly look at the end of the month as maybe rallying out into October and see how things go. Obviously nothing set in stone, but it's encouraging to see a bit of a structure change, with the first lower high actually being this guy here, because this was a higher high close on a higher high wick, and then the first major lower high being around that 61.8 to 62.8 at that swing high. So I like what I'm seeing so far. Let's go ahead and check on the weekly, and then we'll wrap this up. It's oh, you know what? We'll keep that on there. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go to the weekly. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is very on the longer term time frames. This is essentially a bull flag, like on the monthly. I mentioned this before already at the beginning of the month. But yeah, the last lower high in the weekly, 65K, not really interesting for price action, even on any rallies below $65,000, obviously on the daily as it relates to the weekly. But when we start seeing price close back above $65,000, that would be an official trend break. Yeah, we've got some messy lows in here with this higher low that was set and then immediately into lower low structure on a close. But if we get a swing higher low, if this were to be it, I'm not saying it's going to be, but if this were going to be it, come up, trend break above $65,000, maybe get another higher low from there locally, or even a bit higher if it can rally out. And then we come back to it, as we're entering into the fourth quarter of the year. End of September is the quarterly close. And then obviously the third quarter close into the fourth quarter open. So that would be encouraging to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bollinger Bands real quick. See where we're at. Okay, still living below that lower first. To set a low on the weekly, we need to see closes back above 59,825. So close above $60,000 would look good. Need to see recovery of, guess what, around 62.5. That would put it, right in that recover zone that I have on my chart that I was just showing. And then above there, of course, $65,000 to the upper first is at 67,232. So a little bit shy of that 272, but key resistance on the daily. Excuse me. From the first lower high of that major lower high in this range, off of the all-time high, lining up perfectly with the volatility level essentially. Because as price rises, this number will adjust ever so slightly. So something to pay attention to above there, but it wouldn't take much to if Bitcoin shows some structural changes on the daily for it to make a good effort. Then of course you take it to 70 and then 72, which is where the upper second is. Above there, we're looking for the all-time high to the upper third, somewhere around 73 to 75, maybe even pushing up to 76 to 78 or so. But yeah, we'll have to come back. We'll check in midweek. I'm renaming it because people didn't get the joke with quick takes being 20 to 30 minutes. But we're just gonna call the Wednesday show a check-in, and then the Friday wrap-up we'll do this week. And if you have any questions about this kind of stuff, drop them in the comments. I encourage you to do so, whether that's on YouTube. Some of you do watch on YouTube, although I suspect that's mostly to people that want to watch it on their TV. But if you're watching it here on X, I encourage you, drop me a line down in the comments below. I'll try to answer your questions. Of course, I'm in Spaces events every single day now, so that's another place that if you want to jump up when the time period is appropriate to do so, come on up and ask questions, and I'll be happy to try and answer them. There's maybe one other thing that I want to check on before. Yeah, let's check on open interest. Okay, so we did have a pretty decent rally in open interest here. Let's see. Got up above 17 billion before dumping back off, and at 17 billion it's actually okay. So you can see how price kind of reacted here, at that OI level. Let's go ahead and just really quickly illustrate this. And open interest is essentially just your leveraged contracts in the market. So essentially spiking right into this high of OI on higher highs. So there's a little bit of an OI divergence up here, causing a short-term time frame reversal. OI has maybe another 200 million before spiking the highs here, which is essentially where it was hanging out even on the lows. So open interest stayed pretty consistent even on the move down. I suspect that's because there's a lot of shorts in the market still. Let's go ahead and look at funding rate real quick. It's probably positive. Yeah, we're getting a mix. Okay, so we had negative all the way up, slightly positive now as longs are coming in on this pullback here on the hourly. So I think that if Bitcoin is going to rally above 58,400, I think we're going to see shorts starting to exit, and OI might actually come down. So that might be able to extend that rally into the 60 to 60,300, maybe more from there. And we kind of come back to it. I guess the only other thing to check on would be stochastic momentum pivot, and then yeah, I'll let you go. I said I was going to let you go early, but I lied. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So 53,631. So essentially, where is that? That is 53.5. That is the bottom side of the danger zone, essentially. And I didn't click it. There it is. Yeah, so essentially 53.6, 53.5. There's not much of a difference. If Bitcoin was going to push back down, you're going to see that likely turn if Bitcoin starts closing anywhere back in the danger zone here for an extended period of time below that lower first where it's lining up here. But that's the bottom side here, 53.5. 53,600, only $100. Bitcoin starts moving back down more aggressively. This will update during the day as well to around that 53.5 level. So above 53.5, looking good. Below there, no, not looking good. And OI is saying that there's probably a potential chance above 58.4 to wash out some short positions, have them closing out possibly into the 60,300 and above, to maybe another rally to 61 to 61.8, maybe even 62 to 63.8. So be on the lookout for that. Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll talk again on Wednesday on the check-in. And you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.